I come to you with an idea of a vision. I wanted to give you some idea about what this is about. But I need to give you a few seconds of background to this idea. About a year and a half ago at the university, we had a conference on sustainability and other issues, bringing some folks from around the world, but in particular some faculty and people from University College in Cork, Ireland. They came for a couple of days, and we had a great time together. We walked around the city, and the vice provost of the university, John O'Halloran, was talking to me, and I'd been provost at UMass Lowell, so there was some connection. And he said, you know, one of the projects you really should think about is I've seen Lowell, and I'm so excited about it. It should be a city of learning, and I really didn't know what he meant by that. So he went on to explain, and I discovered that the United Nations Economic, Scientific and Cultural Committee, UNESCO, designates cities as cities of learning and built a program over the last 10 or 11 years doing that process across the globe. And as you may know, outside of the United States, UNESCO is taken very, very seriously. It's the place which establishes historic sites around the world, and there's a lot of investment and development. So I asked him a little bit more about it. He said, well, in April, Cork, which has just been awarded the UNESCO City of Learning of the Year award, is having the conference, the triennial conference of UNESCO in Cork, and a Festival of Learning, which is part of the City of Learning. Why don't you come? So I go to Cork and I see this week-long Festival of Learning, which has all kinds of activities throughout the city, which I found incredibly exciting and stimulating. So I thought, well, you know, this idea is a really good one, and I think Lowell is, as John said to me, perfectly committed to doing this. I went back later in November when the actual conference occurred, and there were over 700 people from 140 countries in the world to celebrate Cork being awarded the UNESCO City of Learning Award. And I was deeply impressed with what they'd done, and this was really an amazing conference with a great deal of people there, and put a lot of attention around the world. I met mayors and city councillors and academics from, as I said, about 140 cities. So I came back to Lowell, and I thought, well, we really should think about whether there's room for the city of Lowell to do this. So I've got this brief PowerPoint, only a few slides, but it'll give you a better idea of what this means, okay? So here's our logo, and I said, I'm so proud of that. City of Learning, and a lot to learn about Lowell. And the educated city, I think, is really deeply embedded in the DNA of Lowell, and particularly the work of Pat Logan, who talked about and used the term educated city. There was all this stuff going on there in Lowell, and this would be a really great way of bringing Lowell thematically and I think intellectually around this idea. And I will say that as many years as an academic and as a teacher, I think it's extremely important to create a culture of learning in any community. And in fact, we don't do this very well at the university because we have a culture of teaching but not a culture of learning. And so the idea of a culture of learning in a city is a very interesting one to me, both pedagogically and intellectually. I looked around, and I've worked a long time in Lowell. I'm on a number of boards and not-for-profits, and here's just a smattering of organizations in Lowell, with the core being the university and the community college, the City of South, and the local education department, who are really a natural park. Basically what they do is they teach. They teach and they provide skill training and knowledge from everything from how to play the guitar, how to become a citizen, how to participate in politics, all of that stuff. So there are literally hundreds of organizations who do this already in Lowell. So I'm not trying to recreate the wheel here. This is really building on what we've got. At Cork in 2017, this was the City of Learning there. Cork is interesting in relation to Lowell because it's approximately the same size, 105,000 people. Physically, it's about the same size. It's got a lot more pubs. Right?
Are you sure about that?
I visited many of them with the people I was working with. And so it's been designated the City of Learning. It took them about 8 to 9 years to get the award. This is a very unusual award. It's only given to one city every 3 years, I think. And as a result of getting the award, they had this, as I described, this very large convention there in Lowell for 5 days. They actually fed all 700 people at one meeting, and it was really very impressive. And I was sitting at tables with people from Africa, from Southeast Asia, from Korea, former Soviet Union, Russia, Belgium, Germany. It was very exciting. And it brought a lot of attention to Cork and a lot of money because all these people were buying and going to the pubs, you know, as they do. There are 100 more so-called designated UNESCO learning cities in the world, but there's not one in the United States. If we pursued this, we could become the first UNESCO designated city of learning in the United States, which would be no significant achievement. I want you to think about that. That didn't work very well, but I'm not very good at PowerPoint. To build this, it requires really thinking about how we organize what we've already got. Again, I'm thinking of this as an umbrella, a framing of Lowell. In addition to Lowell as a middle city, in addition to Lowell as a creative city, Lowell as a learning city. And I think because we have all these components, and I work at UMass. The Lowell campus is really the only open campus in the system. This is a great thing and a great asset we can build on. And this just describes what UNESCO sees as the building of this kind of stuff. They apparently stole the logo from MCC. I'm sorry about that. It's the front of it. But the idea of building up these events and activities to make a commitment. They use the term lifelong learning, which is quite often a lot of pablum. And do I think by doing this we can take every young Cambodian kid and turn him into the new Elon Musk? No. But I think we could make this a place where we think of Lowell as a center for learning, that has a culture of learning, and that can build communities, and particularly I think we build skills for people, because the employment market, the job market is changing rapidly. It always did that in history, but the velocity of change is really enormous here now. With the advent of artificial intelligence and robotics, jobs are changing so quickly we can't even train our students at the university to manage them. Right? We talk a lot about, for example, Amazon coming to Boston. Well, Amazon is also in the process of replacing its workers in its warehouses with robots. I just saw a piece on 2 of those warehouses where 500 workers were replaced by 3 workers, and the entire system is robotic. We have a question about what work's going to become, right? So it's worth thinking that intellectually into the future. So, first city of learning in the United States, yes, we will do these things. The obvious things is promoting inclusive learning from basic to higher education. We often talk about Lowell where you can go to kindergarten and get a PhD. You can, there are very few places in the country you can do that. The revitalization of the notion of learning in families, building a culture of that is really critically important. We can facilitate learning for the workplace using the university and the community college to adapt to the things I described, for example, the future of Amazon and the beginning of robotics. We need to do this on a continued basis. We can use modern learning technologies, and I can see some people saying, well, look, if I want to learn how to play the guitar or fix my leaking faucet, I can go and get a YouTube video for that. But that doesn't create a culture of learning. And I'm a teacher. Being in the classroom, showing passion about knowledge and learning is the only real way you can extend that, right? And so you have to foster that culture of learning, which I think has great implications for the future of Lowell and the future of this country. This would mean for us, we would become a destination for visitors in addition to what we do have, because we'll be seen as a learning city. It will build community cohesion. It will position us better to compete for business development. I talked about this with Jim Cook, and he was very excited about the idea. And he recognizes that businesses want to locate in areas which are, going back to the creative economy argument, but not only tolerant and technologically savvy, but places where learning opportunities, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, are there for their workers, for professional development. It increases the image of the city as an inclusive and safe environment, and it makes a commitment to the lifelong learning process, which is critically important to the gig and digital economy. And it will give us national and international recognition. I mean, I was struck in core by how this brought so many people in so many different parts of the world to this place around this idea, which, with the mill city and the start of the Industrial Revolution, all that stuff, that's good. But the shelf life of that is slowly dying. And yes, we have Jack Kerouac, and he's important too. But this is a level of bringing this stuff together, which I think presents some possibilities. These are former UNESCO Learning City awardees spread around the world. As you can see, there's an absence in North America. It's very big in Europe and in Southeast Asia. I met some really wonderful people from South Korea, and from Brazil and Ecuador and Chile. So how do we get there? Again, I'm not coming to you to say I need $1 million or even to tear down the high school. I have to bring that up.
Everybody does.
But I think that everything is almost in place here. We just need to frame it and think about that. So what I'm proposing here is develop it as the first UNESCO City of Learning. And we're going to try, with your blessing, call the 4 days prior to celebration of Earth Day, which we've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years, as a week of the Festival of Learning, to bring some, and this is a pilot idea, just to bring some of the events together, build a calendar, suggest to people that we can do this. And so test the water to see whether that works or not. The festival can feature films, demonstrations, information, lectures, and so forth and so forth. We build this around the sustainability piece, which is implicit in the Earth Day thing, but it goes way beyond that. And one note I would add, talking to the folks who did this in Cork, it's very critical that the educational opportunities that appeared in the neighbourhoods, and we talked to the neighbourhoods about what would they like to learn and know more about. And I think that that's a critical component of this. And in Cork, what they do, a lot of these things go in on the front of supermarkets, they go in on parks, they go in office spaces. So you bring the educational moment to the people where they are, where they act, right? And lastly, we have to apply for UNESCO designation. I have actually a copy of the application. It's actually quite simple. You're not committing to anything other than saying you want to work to become a City of Learning, and they assign it, and then they re-access by that all of the information, knowledge, and background they've had building the 140-odd cities of learning across the rest of the world. And the last thing I'll finish is that the potential for me, and I'm not representing the UMass Lowell, I've talked to Jackie a lot about this, and she's very keen on this. Two components that I believed in after years of teaching is that real teaching goes on with passion, and it goes on face-to-face, it goes on outside of the classroom as much as in it. And secondly, what we have not done very well at the university is create possibilities for our students to truly civically engage with the community beyond, we have students doing internships, but making photocopies in Nicky Saunders' office is not a learning experience, right? No more than reading a PowerPoint to your teachers. So the potential for building the civic engagement of not only of our students by getting them to do things and teach in the city. For example, I'm teaching right now upper level seminar on the European Union. Well, say instead of writing a paper about the European Union, I had a group of students develop a PowerPoint or a presentation in language that everybody could understand, so that people who were interested to understand a little bit more about what the European Union was and why Brexit was important. We could do that. Right? The second piece of this was the faculty. And the potential here for bringing the faculty, as they do it in Cork, into the city and expressing through a public engagement the kind of work and knowledge that they have is not only good for those faculty, it is also very good for the city. And we haven't really tapped into that resource as much as we might like to do. So all in all, what I'm saying to you is, here's an opportunity. Focus on the idea of the City of Learning that UNESCO puts out very clearly. And to have a shot at saying, well, Lowell's got all this in place. Let's frame it this way. Let's move forward and say, here's an exciting way, if you like, of branding Lowell in a different way, but more importantly, creating a culture of learning in the city over the long term to establish the possibilities of our community members and their belief in these things.